Big news from China. I know it's normally Lewis on the bonus show who talks about China, but I'll talk about it today. China has decided to end its decades long one child policy, according to the state run Xinhua news agency. Couples are now going to be allowed to have two children. And for those who aren't familiar, since 1979, China has had a mandatory one child policy. And this was designed to slow the rate of population growth in China. There were numerous exceptions to the one child policy. In rural areas, families were allowed to have two children if the first was a girl. Other exceptions included ethnic minorities, couples where at least one parent was a single child, and the negative implications of this one child policy have been significant. Infanticide, forced abortions, although never admitted to by the Chinese government, are essentially considered to be undeniable in China. By some estimates, the one child policy is said to have prevented 400 million births, but that number is heavily disputed by others. Some say the number is far lower. Maybe 100 million births were prevented by the one child policy. Enforcement since 1979 has included fines, loss of employment, forced abortions, as I mentioned. And now we are seeing a change in this. And the interesting thing is that this change in the one child policy is being partially attributed to the aging population in China. But there are population analysts, who are saying it's too late now because it's going to take a while until the children that will be born in the next few years will have children of their own. Many of the parents who would have liked to have more than one child are now too old to have any more children. So the Chinese aging population crisis, and crisis may be the wrong term, but the concerns around China's aging population may not be resolved so quickly now after decades of this one child policy, which again had many exceptions, and many people writing into me who say they know more about this saying, David, yeah, the policy has been there, but there are so many exceptions that, with the exception of the most urban areas, most people did not abide by the policy if they didn't want to. And a lot of it was ideological, the idea that many people did believe they shouldn't have more than one child. And often that was the sort of enforcement factor. And this is also a problem in terms of the population growth. This is a problem that other Asian countries are experiencing as well. We've talked about the problem in Japan with population growth, where people are not having enough children. And in developed countries, the sub-replacement fertility rate is 2.1 children per woman, which sort of accounts for developed nation infant mortality. In nations where infant mortality is higher, you may need to have a 3.4 child per woman rate in order to sustain the population. Taken globally, the total fertility rate at replacement was 2.33 children per woman in 2003, and that's probably changed a little bit. There have been some improvements to infant mortality over the last 12 years. So we'll track what happens in China. This is a very slow moving statistic, so we may not have news about it for certainly many years at minimum.